What they've done, it took them about 5 years. We've actually done that in about 10 weeks. The velocity is insane. This is going to be owned and operated in a substantial way by folks that are from within the industry.
Rather than their own individual company, they would have 6 million in stock in StakeholdersVR. We're able to achieve a valuation that's anywhere from 30 to 60% higher than kind of the range that's out there in the marketplace.
We're not going into these markets trying to look for the crummiest brands there and bolt them together to hopefully sell them down the road. It's actually just the opposite. We're going in saying, who's the best brand in this market that actually fits with our model?
And you meet some of the most interesting, awesome, we're an eccentric group of people in this industry, right? Thinking about bringing some of these folks together, I just really thought that there could be something really, really special.
We'll start the show in just a minute, but first, a word from our premier brand sponsor, Marriott Homes and Villas.
I'm Lindsay Eller. I'm Skyrun's Senior Director of Location Support. We are a franchise model vacation rental company. We manage about 1,500 units across our portfolio of about 50 franchisees, and we primarily work with second homeowners who are either investment minded or they also get personal enjoyment out of using their second homes. We started our partnership with Marriott back in 2019 with just a handful of the Skyrun portfolios. And what was really interesting about the channel itself is that they only worked with professionally managed inventory. So we thought that that was going to be a great space to showcase Skyrun's properties and really stand out from the pack. Another thing that we found really attractive was the level of support that Marriott was able to provide to Skyrun. So when we work with channels, it's very important to us to have direct points of contact and feel supported, and they were able to offer all of that. Whenever we try a new channel, we're always a little skeptical to see that the channel's only going to be booking very peak travel times and minimal amount of dates, but we really didn't see that with Marriott right from the beginning. Even though we didn't have a ton of inventory distributed to Marriott, we were seeing really good bookings year round, essentially. And in 2023 and 2024, they contributed almost 3% to Skyrun's bottom line. So that's over $1 million. I'll also say that we really enjoy the Marriott bookings because they provide such a good value. So out of all of the channels that Skyrun distributes to, including our own website, HVMB is the third highest value booking source as measured by average stay value. So the bookings we get from Marriott are on average just about $1,600 a piece. We have definitely noticed a difference in the types of guests that come from HVMB. Our homes are booked more frequently by the titanium level Bonvoy members than any other Bonvoy tier. And those guests are obviously very discerning and expect high quality. Every property manager that I have the opportunity to talk to, industry events, if Marriott comes up, I am always singing their praises. They have been a wonderful partner to Skyrun over the years, and we've only continued to increase the volume of bookings that are coming from that channel. The quality of the bookings that come in from HVMB, the quality of the guests, as well as just the quality of the support and the partnership that we feel from them, it is very high. They've been a wonderful partner to work with, and I would recommend them to anybody.
Ready to take your property management business to the next level? Go live with Homes and Villas by Marriott Bonvoy by August 4th, 2025, and receive Marriott Bonvoy Platinum status for 1 year. That's 36,000 bonus points. And a marketing feature on a Homes and Villas marketing channel after you launch. Click the link in the description to get started today. Welcome to Alex and Annie, the Real Women of Vacation Rentals. I'm Alex.
And I'm Annie.
And we are joined today by two gentlemen. We have Lino Maldonado and Brady Stump, who are two of the founders of the very interesting business everybody wants to know more about, the StakeholdersVR. Guys, it's so good to see you.
You as well. No, really appreciate you having us on the podcast. Excited about it.
Yeah, so it feels like, Brady, we've wanted to have you on for a long time and we haven't. So 1,000 apologies that we haven't had you on sooner. Lino is a repeat offender. I don't know. He's been he's been with us quite a number of times. I feel like I joked that he could run the show if we ever stepped aside. But just in case some of our audience doesn't know who you two gentlemen are, why don't you start with Brady, introduce yourself, and then we'll go over to Lino.
No, thank you guys so much. Longtime entrepreneur, been in the VR space for quite some time. Lived down here in Pawleys Island, South Carolina, great vacation rental market. Started in property management. A lot of people don't know that. We were a Christie's auction house. They had a real estate division, and we had a rental and real estate company. And that's when I discovered, travel insurance and Rental Guardian and all that good stuff. that led to Inhabit and an incredible journey there. And now getting into stakeholders and being able to create this with Lino and some other gentlemen and ladies. Really, really excited to talk more about it today.
Absolutely. And of course, been in the business, vacation rentals for over 30 years now. Annie, what you said about repeat offender, that's truer than you know. And so, really, love the business. I've been in the tech side now for about 6 years with Be Home, co-founder of OK to Charge, and now one of the founding partners of Stakeholder VR that we're excited to talk to you about today.
And one interesting fact that I feel like this always happens, Lino, when you're involved, but Brady, I think the first time you and I met was also at OPMA, which that's where I met Amy. And I think, Lino, that's probably where I met you for the first time too. But I remember meeting you at the Miami Summit years ago, and you said you were just down the road in Pawleys Island. I thought, gosh, I can't believe that there's somebody that close that's all the way down here too. But that was that association brought a lot of good minds and friends together.
It really did. And Paul Wolford, great friend to this day. In fact, with our Scenic Stays business, we actually do business with Paul in his reservations outsource company.
Yeah. Small world with everybody that we've got here. But so the $1 million question, you guys, you've just formed the Stakeholders VR, and we've got a lot of questions. But before we get started, why don't you just kind of tell us about what it is? We've got a pretty good idea, but would like to hear directly from you. We've read the LinkedIn post, but give us kind of the elevator pitch of what you've got going on.
Yeah, absolutely. So Stakeholders VR, at a really high level, we're bringing together this kind of collection of these blue chip A+ property management companies, really bringing them together for a couple of different reasons. We're really focused on creating these great local brands, bringing these great local brands together, and creating something really, really special where we've seen what's worked and what hasn't worked in the industry, where you amalgamate all the brands and you ship the call center to the West Coast, and people kind of lose connection with their owners and with their guests. And I think that what Lino and I saw in the industry is that there was this unique opportunity to create something to bring some of these great legendary local brands together, to create something really, really special where they could both create something for the long term, but also be able to take a little bit of capital off the table. A lot of these property managers that we've talked to, it's really interesting that, they have 80, 90% of their personal net worth tied up in these companies. And, so many times we see private equity get involved and they'll do a deal and then they'll cash out 80, 90%, and then they'll roll forward a small piece. And maybe they get some big upside on that, what they call second bite of the apple. But we were really looking for folks that still had the fire in their belly. They still wanted to go and execute. They still wanted to go and build something really legendary. But also maybe, is there a way to take some of the services off of their plate, right? There's a lot of folks that they just really, really get tons of energy from meeting with the owners at the HOA or the Chamber of Commerce meetings, or creating really awesome guest experiences, but there's certain things that kind of suck energy out of them, like finance and IT or HR. And so really, really thinking through that is that we really felt that there was a way and kind of a path that I think, Lino, you explained really well, a unique path that we could build something that just quite hadn't been done yet. And that's what we're really, really heavy into now.
Yeah. And the only thing I'd add to that, Brady, because that's a very good description, is that we really want to focus on centralizing the headaches, but keeping the businesses very local, developing more time for them to do the things that really matter in their day, and not the distractions that take away from a great guest, owner, or brand building experience. So that's really our mission. I like to describe the lanes. Rolling up great companies isn't a new concept. It's been around. I was involved, many years ago as an employee in the IPO, roll up of Resort Quest. That had its ups and downs. And then, we bought it back in '07. We created, some good value in it and sold it to Wyndham to create Wyndham. So roll-ups aren't new. What makes us very different is what I'd like to describe as the lanes, right? So you've got a couple of a couple of lanes that are pretty clear. You've got the standard PE roll-ups, right? And there's been a number of those done, some more successful than others, but that's certainly one path. Now you've got a newer path that is the franchise model, which I personally think is a fantastic model for this industry because it does some similar things to what we're doing, where you're centralizing the functions that create distractions, so that your owner operators in the field can focus on the things that matter most day to day. So I think that's a great plan. What we're doing is kind of cutting right down the middle. The folks that we're attracting today are the brands who are strong locally. They would never sell to a PE firm because they don't want, or 100% to a PE firm, because they don't want their brands to be dismantled, their technology, their processes, their people. Those are risky challenges when you start rolling together, large companies. And these are also brands that typically wouldn't join a franchise model, because their models well on its own within these markets. And so what we're saying is, let's take that group and generate additional synergies between all of the brands that we collectively roll up, and learn from one another, best practices, where we can take some of the challenges away from the day to day. That'll be our focus. So it's just another option for great brands that exist today.
As you're talking through this, is this similar to like what Away Day is doing, or is it still kind of in between what they're doing and versus like the franchise model?
Very similar to that. I think that, a lot of the groups, and I don't want to speak for those guys, and clearly they just recently had a great transaction and done a really good job. But the uniqueness about the group that we're pulling together is, like I said, and Lino said it best, is these are some fantastic local brands that are executing at a high level, and that they still really have a very long-term vision for what they want to build, and they still have that fire in their belly, and they still want to go and continue to execute, and they have multiple generations of families that are still involved in the company. Or some of the other groups, they've taken a lot of chips off the table. Some of our group, they want to take some chips off the table at a higher multiple that we're going to be able to achieve, but they still have a lot that they want to execute, and they want to do it with a group of other A-plus operators. It's the analogy that people have been using is kind of like this Avengers. I remember taking my boys to the superheroes movies or the Knights of the Round Table, and you have a group of gals and guys sitting around the table. And if you've got 25 property managers sitting at this table, one person at that table, especially if it's a bunch of great operators, one person's like kick butt, fantastic at one or two specific things. And then, like Lino was saying, you elevate those different best practices to the whole group. There's some really cool synergies that can happen.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And, just if somebody was, I don't know, maybe 20 years down the line from now, and someday hopefully we'll all be, and looking back on all this and just seeing how the models have evolved, and really, they've all really paved the way for each one that has come, right? And it's like, I know in my year selling franchises with Casago, a lot of people, kind of like you described, Lino, they don't want to necessarily change their brand, right? Like, but they also did not want to sell their company. So it's like there's different like levels of what are going to be the things that they do or don't like about these different situations. But for you guys and who you're going after, is it mostly like legacy companies that have been around for a long time, or is it newer people that are getting into this and want to join?
It's quite honest. It's been a mix of both. Our target, we're diversifying the portfolio across the United States so that we've got a good balance within the parent company for obvious reasons. But this is one of our first podcasts that is getting the word out in a big way. We have been flying under the radar for a couple of weeks. Well, the radar is completely locked on us, man. It's more like a bullseye.
It's out of the bag now.
It's out of the bag. We're taking more incoming calls than we are doing even outreach, which shows us that there is some validity to the model. Because most of these guys and gals that we're talking to today, they are approached on a regular basis from some of the other roll-up opportunities, and they're just haven't shown interest. With us, it's a different ballgame. And so that actually invigorates us. We get very excited about what we're building based on the inbounds.
It's a testament to all of you guys too, right? I mean, the people that are involved in this, that's part of why I think there's so much interest, because it's not people from the outside of the industry that are coming in and have just put a fund together. It's you
Right.
guys, and the other people that are involved. Are you able to say who the others are involved?
Yeah. So myself, Brandon Ezra, who was previously with Grand Welcome, and I know that was more of a franchise model. This is definitely not that. He's involved. Travis Wilburn from the Wonder Collection is an advisor. And in the coming days, this was kind of me and Lino's the coming out party for the group. And then we have a bunch of the big announcements. But to your point, Alex Sandy, is that people, they want to be big part of something bigger than themselves, right? It's like this kind of like universal calling that you're out building, and so much of an entrepreneur's journey is so many times like this solo journey. And when we bring this group of people together, this original term is not me; it was the previous CEO of Inhabit, Lisa Stinnett, used to say, bringing together a group of unhirables. And so with people like you guys and myself and Lino, if something happens with a company, a lot of times we're not out looking for another job. We're just like, all right, well, what are we going to start now? What are we going to do now? So when you bring this unique group of people together that have never had, another group of just really innovative people, a lot of unique things that can happen. And Lino made a great point too about how there are some smaller groups, there's some larger groups. It's almost like a mindset, right? Like the groups that we're talking to, there's just something special with these groups, and they really have that kind of growth mindset. And I think that's what really separates some of the groups that are wanting to be a part of what we're building versus some of the other stuff that's out there.
Yeah, and the thing I would add, we mentioned, I think you guys did a way day a little while ago, and there are certainly some similarities. I think they've done a really good job, in many areas. What they've done, it took them about 5 years ish to get rolling and started, and to where they were with their most recent transaction. We've actually done that in about 10 weeks, and so that
Wow. Oh
shows
my gosh.
the velocity is insane. And I think one of the main differentiators with us in this roll up is that this is a VR led roll up group that is going to be owned and operated in a substantial way by folks that are from within the industry. So, and I've been through it personally myself a few times, where you spend a lot of time training your owners on what it is you do every day. The owners that join our group will not have to do that. And another, I think, big differentiator with us is that there are no egos on this team. The C-suite that we are building is a support mechanism to the field. You're not going to see 100 people in the parent, organization. It's actually going to be a very small but highly motivated group of doers that know that their job is to support the owners in the field, the operators in the field, not dictate process, procedure, technology, all of those things. And that is a major difference.
Are you buying these companies or investing? So maybe that's where I don't understand the full dynamic of it, but I was going to ask you like kind of where you stood in that, and then kind of off what you just, your comment about the team, maybe you can touch on is, I picture some of the people that you mentioned. That's a lot of personalities. It's a lot of knowledge. It's a lot of different, but it's a lot of different market opinions. And I think that, Lino, you and I have talked about it multiple times. I mean, what works in the Panhandle doesn't necessarily work in Hawaii, and Myrtle. Like there's some markets that are similar, but you have a lot of different dynamics at play here. So how do you get all these stakeholders at the table to not advocate for their way of doing something over somebody else?
Yeah. Oh, that's such a great question. So, and the reality is that is a very distinct reality in this industry. In fact, even locally. So forget the diversity across the map, right? Because there are certainly differences in every single market that are unique to that market. But I can take companies, and we've got a few markets, Brady's where he operates, and even in the Panhandle where I do, that we've got multiple brands in the discussions locally. They're in the same business. They have the same portfolio of properties, and there are nuances to how they run their businesses. That has to be respected and celebrated, not challenged or changed. And so there will certainly be cross synergistic opportunities, but we're going to tread lightly because our founding goals are to Not screw any of them up. We're not going into these markets trying to look for the crummiest brands there and bolt them together to hopefully sell them down the road. It's actually just the opposite. We're going in saying, who's the best brand in this market that actually fits with our model? And they will not be for everybody, but they have to fit in the model and the vision. And that is very simply to celebrate the brands, to support the owner operators, and to pull whatever off of their plates that don't add value to their owners, their guests, or their company culture. Pull those things centrally so that it buys them more time to do the things that move the needle of the business forward faster. That's really what our mission is.
So for the services that you're going to offer or take off their plates, I know you've mentioned accounting and HR and those types of things. What about the economies of scale? Like, I'm sure at some point you're going to be able to get better pricing on software and different platforms and stuff like that. Are you trying to, would the goal be to move everybody onto the same operating stack?
The people that we're working with, they're already just kick butt operators in their markets, right? And so I think one of the most traumatic things that you can do if you immediately come in and say, where I think some of the other groups where they've made the decision where, the spreadsheet warriors come in and say, change this, do that, change this. We've never been boots on the ground, like all of us on this call, in property management, checking out houses and cleaning and doing revenue management and be like, oh crap, how do I price this July 4th weekend? They haven't done those things. So we do not want to, force change PMS and things like that. But I think there are opportunities for procurement when you've got 2,500 units using this software and 3,000 using that software. There's probably discounts that we can get, right? Group buying for linens and things like that you can do if you're buying for, when we go live with the group and the whole group and do the initial transaction this fall, it's going to be between 4,000 and 5,000 units. So that's a lot of buying power, right? That we're going to be able to do with the group. There's some things that HR, payroll, benefits, different things that the whole thing about what gives people energy working with guests and owners, but what sucks energy is like, I don't want to do HR, payroll, finance, stuff like that. So we can take those type of things off of them. We have, one of the interesting things for Lino and I going down this journey is there are a lot of folks that are like, I do spend a lot of time doing revenue management. So I think that we'll have probably, in addition to the top-notch finance team, we'll have some additional revenue management resources to help the boots on the ground and the operators in the different local markets as well. But there's a ton of opportunities there.
So I had a question. I wanted to go back. The show is all about aha moments. And so what was the aha moment for you guys? Was it just, the people that you've talked about are involved in them and you guys all kind of hang out together. You bounce ideas off each other. So it's not that you're not interacting with each other on a regular basis, most likely, but was there just one thing that you just said, oh my gosh, this is exactly what we need to be doing?
For me, Lino, it's interesting, right? Because I think a lot of us, and a lot of other people that will soon be, hopefully there's like a follow-up podcast. So with some of the other people that are teaming up with Lino and I that we want to strategically announce as we go along.
We'll do breaking news episodes.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. I was even thinking about that. That would be so cool.
We've got a whole series of breaking news this program.
Let's go.
I may have one for you tomorrow.
Yeah.
We'll chronicle the whole thing.
Yeah. No, it's like we actually talked about this, right? We're going to start pitching you guys. For me, my journey, right, to get here is that, started Rental Guardian, was kind of a founding member of Vacation Brands, which turned into Inhabit, did the Goldman Sachs recap, did the Blackstone, had all this incredible success and all the great things that Inhabit did. Big company now delivering great solutions. But at the end of the day, even though I got this kind of crash course in private equity and institutional investors for the last 6 years, I really saw myself as this kind of bootstrapped entrepreneur. And I just really, really just get so much energy out of the whole startup phase of things. And, my original roots were in property management too. And, was there a way to create this group that would be led by the property managers. And just like you guys, we go to these trade shows and you meet some of the most interesting, awesome, we're an eccentric group of people in this industry, right? But thinking about bringing some of these folks together, I just really thought that there could be something really, really special about bringing these personalities and just these just incredible humans, right? If you bring all these incredible humans together, I think great things happen. And then started having these conversations. And Lino it's been percolating in his head. He'd been thinking about the same thing and having conversations with other folks. And then it's just kind of crazy how just all of those like-minded individuals, we start connecting and talking to each other. And then it's really in the last, 6 to 8 to 10 weeks, it's just taken on a life of its own.
Yeah, my aha moment very similar to Brady. I mean, we've seen things done wrong, which is a strength of ours, I think, because we know what not to do. I think that for me, it was, what are the things that ruin great companies that have been built? And that is exactly the founding premises of this opportunity. Is if you care about your legacy, you care about your brand, you care about staying in the business and actually continuing to grow the business, you're probably for us. You're probably someone that would be a great partner in this group. The other thing that's really important that I don't think has ever really been done like we are moving it is the diversification of your investment. I've got a business here in the Panhandle, Scenic Stays, and we're a young company. We're just shy of 500 units, and if we were to be hit by a storm in May, that would be extremely disruptive for business. But if there's an opportunity for me to join forces and diversify my investment pool over a large area, now I've actually de-risked my company because I own a smaller piece of a bigger entity versus 100% of my chips being in one brand in a local market. And that has tremendous value to me and to my associates in the field as well.
That makes a lot of sense. We'll be back in just a minute. But first, a word from our premier brand sponsor, Grand Welcome.
Hi, I'm Joseph Cox.
I'm Denise Turner, and we are franchise owners in multiple locations. We've been with Grand Welcome since 2021, so 4 years now.
We chose the franchise route just because it was so great that all of the back-end stuff can be handled by someone else. Really allows you to focus on the guest experience and your clients as well in taking care of their needs. The reason we chose Grand Welcome ultimately was the people and the experience that we had. The first few calls that we had with Grand Welcome, we really felt a connection to them, and their brand really fit what Denise and I were looking to create in our vacation rental business.
What we love most about Grand Welcome is having the support, knowing that there are people there behind us, pushing us to grow and to do better, and then just knowing that we have all the technology and tools at our fingertips. Since working with Grand Welcome, we have expanded our territories. Last year in 2024, we purchased the Palm Springs and Santa Barbara territories. And then this year, we have just recently purchased Bend in Central Oregon and Winter Park in Grand County, Colorado. And we do have plans to grow future.
Grand Welcome really allows you to operate and run your own business by supporting and handling all of the back end things. They have a solid team and a solid system and practice in place already. So you're not recreating the wheel. And really it's all of that knowledge and the things that they have built over time that supports franchisees to be able to focus on the properties, getting out to the properties and taking care of them without being tied down with all of the administrative processes behind the scenes.
We would definitely recommend Grand Welcome to others just because we know that the support is there. And so for those who are trying to do it on their own and having to deal with all of the things that go with that, for us, it just makes sense to have the support of the franchise behind us. It's a national company. So from a marketing standpoint, that really helps our business as well.
Click the link in the description to get a free growth hack analysis and a P&L evaluation. And make sure to tell them you heard about this offer on the Alex and Annie podcast. Essentially how this works is that you guys have put together some sort of a fund, I imagine, right? And these companies that are coming into this, you are purchasing or investing in a portion of their business, but they still own their own portion. But then they also get a portion of the larger company. Is that correct?
Close. So you're absolutely in the right direction. Love it. Love it. So the way that this works is there will be one holding company, right? There'll be one entity instead of everybody looking at like their own little collection, or, I've got my little business over here, over here. It truly is everybody on the same cap table, everybody having ownership in the same group. And the way that comes together, really, really exciting, is that, like I said, kind of the old model, and we can't talk about specifics on valuations because every business is different. But on average, the groups that are coming to us, we're able to achieve a valuation that's anywhere from 30 to 60% higher than kind of the range that's out there in the marketplace. And the only reason we're able to do that is that the groups that are out there, they're buying these companies, they're doing deals with these companies as an individual company, right? Where our initial transaction for the first 30 companies, approximately, that will be a part of the initial deal when it closes, when our initial transaction closes this fall. We're going to be treated as one group. So if we have, say, $35 million in EBITDA or net profits, that level is treated much differently than if you're a standalone company with $600,000 or $700,000 in net profits, because the institutional investors, the people in Palo Alto or in Wall Street, they treat you have made something investable for them because they write, really big checks. So it creates this unique opportunity for property managers. And what happens is the individual property management companies, you come up with a valuation for property manager A, B, and C. And let's say property manager A, they're valued at $10 million. And what happens is, rather than their own individual company, let's say they want, like, wow, Brady or Lino, you're getting me a valuation that's much higher than market. So I'm just going to take 40% off the table. So they have a $4 million liquidity event where they get $4 million in cash. And then if they wanted to roll 60% forward, then they would have $6 million in stock in StakeholdersVR. And so that's kind of how it works at a high level.
So does that ultimately also, kind of to your point, Lino, does that like make the risk lower for an individual because now they're part of the group instead of, so like they can do more with what they have because they're not seen as in one market very risk heavy, because again, the coastal hurricanes, those type of things. So this kind of dilutes that risk.
It does. So you think about it, how you invest in a business and what you can control and what you cannot control. 100% of eggs in a single basket has more risk than diversifying into multiple areas of opportunity. And so that certainly is part of the puzzle. The other piece is that as the business continues to grow, the PE partner that we actually choose, we're going to be interviewing, we're actually going to start that process here in under 30 days, is that we've got a lot of people that are interested in the market, but didn't get an opportunity to close on some of the recent transactions. So with a large number of bidders, only one got it, and there is a number of people that wanted it. And so we think that the industry is very frothy from a timing perspective to have a package deal versus buying one company at a time and rolling them up. We're coming at groups as looking for the right partner for us with a large rolled up group already. So it's just a little different path for us.
Yeah. And so what would be the goal in 3 to 5 years? Like, are the companies, do you foresee most of them staying in it and always keeping this ownership in their company and the larger company? Or is the goal eventually to roll all of this up and continue to keep selling it off?
It's a great point. We think that there's multiple opportunities for continued growth within the business. And again, another differentiator is every one of our sellers that are we're buying will have different career paths. We've got some that are maybe 3 to 5 years left in their tank that they really are nearing the end or close to retirement. We've got others that are just getting started. Like, look, I want to be involved and I want to be part of the larger group in some capacity. So we've got an advisory committee structure that we will be populating with our owner operators. And then underneath the advisory structure is a committee structure that we will also be populating. And so we're going to be leaning very heavily on the knowledge and experience and talents and passion of the people that we are actually in business with, which I think is also something very different than what you typically see.
Yeah. The amount of knowledge that you can put together in one room just on any topic is pretty astounding, just from the group that you've got so far and what you can add to it moving forward. I mean, it's a smart play. I'm curious, from a like a perspective a year from now? Is this something where the VR stakeholders is a brand that is marketing these other entities underneath it? Or does every brand completely stand on its own and do its own thing? Or is it a combination?
I think there's multiple opportunities there. At the core, though, we're 100% committed to these local brands, right? We're really investing in partnering with and co-founding all of these other property managers. They're co-founding members, right? And they have really good local embedded brands that the people in that market or people from around the country love and trust. So those are the type of folks that are coming on and joining the group. And so we're investing in those local brands. Long term, I think there's opportunities when you look at, hey, we've got these 30 groups together. Every one of them have databases and they have travelers, 10, 20, 30,000 travelers that have visited those destinations. And then you understand that, they always don't just go to Kiowa or they always don't just go to Aspen. They take a summer and they take a winter vacation. So I think long term is that there's opportunities where, maybe there's like an internal OTA to where we show them all of the properties, but very much rather than, consolidating all the brands, that is not our model. And property managers that want that, they're just not a fit for us. Like, we want to keep these individual local brands because there's just so much value there. But there's certainly some cross marketing opportunities.
Yeah, I think that's smart. I know when I was in property management, that was always the thing. Kind of Lino's been in this market. It's just one hurricane can really set you back. And we were always trying to find partnerships with complementary markets, so mountain markets, urban markets, and like just having relationships kind of around the Southeast, because you knew that, well, gosh, if people weren't going to come this year, they might go to the mountains next year. And if you could share that database with each other and do some cross promotion, but it also gives you power with OTAs too. I mean, like, because OTAs will do promotions, and Wyndham did a really great job of it. I know when I worked with Delaney a long time ago, we used to do promotions for like the ski markets and then do the beach markets. And then they would do these cross things. So like the channels will help out and give you money to do some things there when you have that kind of reach and you're covering a lot of markets. So, I mean, I think this is a really, really smart play all the way around.
And you make a great point too, in that a lot of the groups that Lino and I are talking to, and I think we'd like to take credit like it was by design, but so many of these groups that we're connecting with is that they do really high percentages of direct bookings, right? Like they're really good at marketing their brands. So that tracks the travelers directly to them rather than the OTA. And that creates strength, right? Because that means you have that direct relationship with that traveler.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think, when you've got this group together where everybody has skin in the game, that it's beneficial that if I'm in Myrtle Beach and somebody wants to go to Gatlinburg, but I also have ownership, that I'm benefiting if that my guest does go to Gatlinburg. There's not that competition there. I think back to, the days I was at Condo World, and our approach was different, that we were trying to do something similar. We went into other markets, but we weren't going to buy companies. We built an OTA to market those companies through partnerships, but it worked great within the Myrtle Beach area. But it really was a challenge when we went down to the Panhandle and some other areas, because, when we would say, not all your guests want to come here every year, and same with ours. So, I mean, there's value in being able to, cross market, but there's no benefit to those people if they don't have ownership or they don't get anything if they're guests come to Myrtle Beach now all of a sudden. So makes a lot of sense what you're doing there. And the other point I wanted to make too, we talked about legacy before we hit record, and I mean, both of you both own rental companies, and your companies are part of this, right? And I think that kind of says it all right there, that you believe in this that much that you're really putting your own skin in the game for it.
Yeah, and our kids' skin, by the way.
Are they willing accomplices here?
Yeah, exactly.
My daughter runs circles around what I did back in the day. In fact, one of my proudest moments is that her first big promotion was really just recently this year, and she sits in the office that I started in 31 years ago. She's the rental a property called the Crescent, which is just phenomenal. And she texted the other day and said, "Hey, Dad, picked up 3 units today." I'm like, "Did I ever get 3 units in a single day? I don't believe so." So,
in a day. Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah. We're very excited about legacy and the roll forward value to all of the people that we support. We've got legacy employees. We've got people that have worked with us for 20, 30 years that we also consider family. And so that is a founding premise for us that we want to make sure stays intact always.
I was just going to echo that. I mean, my oldest Jonah graduated from Clemson about 18 months ago. He joined the Sea Mountain Vacations, our local property management company, and it was like such a surreal moment. I took them to their first trade show. I saw you guys down there at the Verma Executive Summit. Was just all nervous about how people were going to treat him, my newbie sons, and Jonah's like, Dad, it would be so cool to talk to one of the sales reps with LMPM. And I was like, well, you want to meet the co-founder? Here's Clint. And so he's Clint's like so nice about answering all his questions. And then he's talking about revenue management, dynamic pricing. And he's like, man, I need to also connect with like an account manager for Price Labs. And I was like, would you like to meet the guy that started it, Richie? And so Richie literally at like the first night mixer stands there for 45 minutes and answers all his questions, treats Jonah like he's been a 20-year OG in the industry, and just as like a parent. Like, it was awesome. And like for me and for Lino, those are like these affirmational moments, like this is the right thing to do. You know what I mean? Like, so when we say we're building something for the long term and our kids want to be a part of this, like there's no BS there. I mean, this is what we are absolutely, and the groups that we're talking with, they have, sometimes it's 2 or 3 generations that are involved in these companies. And we're looking for those type of partners that have those same belief system.
I love that. As a parent, it's always nice to have your child see that kind of full circle and be like, okay, you are pretty cool. Like you did, like they've been wondering what you do all this time, or all the stories that you've been telling them for all these years. Like, okay, fine, stuff,
Oh yeah. No, when we rolled in, Andy, like Clint comes over and daps me up and gives me a hug. I'm like, yeah, see, Dad's kind of cool,
Yeah. Up until then, he just thought, I mean, my son's like that all the time until there's those moments where he's like going, okay, fine, you were right.
Right.
My 3 daughters, the one, Maddie, that works with us is the only one that really understands what it is that I do and did because she's involved with it now. And so that's really cool to see.
Yeah, I feel it. What about, I mean, are you going to be forming, I assume, some sort of a community around these people too, right? So like how they're going to be able to engage together. What are you foreseeing of what that'll look like?
Well, certainly the advisory committees and committees will be all part of that process. I do see in the very short term an annual gathering of some sort, whether we call it a conference or a marketplace or whatever. I think that's a no-brainer, because getting people together on paper is different than getting them together in a room.
Sure. Yeah.
That's important.
It's like a 10x mastermind, right? Because masterminds are great and they're awesome, and so much goodness comes out of these ones that have been hosted by Matt Landau or Steve Schwab, all kinds of great stuff there. The cool thing about what this is that we're all going to be true business partners, right? So like we talk about all the curtains coming down and people really sharing, because if I give Lino an idea or he gives me an idea and we implement it, we both win, not just for, helping a brother or sister out in the industry, but like our whole, the net profits or the revenue increases for the whole business. It just takes that partnership to a whole next level.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. I mean, from like a mastermind or even just, the semi-annual, whether it's in person or just, the community Zoom calls or something like, Brady, you mentioned like people want to be part of something bigger than themselves. And I think that's so true, that there's going to be, it's just a brain power collective there of information that could be really beneficial.
I feel like you guys are putting together like, what the superhero, what is the Fortress of Justice or whatever.
The Avengers or the Justice League or something like that, right?
Yeah. It's like all that brain power in one room. It's pretty crazy.
We talked just a little bit about technology, but that's actually a major input, that we have in this deal, is that technology has changed dramatically, but we are not looking at ourselves as a tech-enabled company. We're a company that uses technology and leverages it. And actually can help us avoid some of the pitfalls in previous roll-ups. As an example, I think Brady, mentioned this, the biggest self-inflicted wound you'll ever create for yourselves is changing a PMS. And so technology that we already have access to today, we are able to basically tap into many different PMS tools and extract the KPIs needed to run the parent company without having to disrupt what process or tech that the local operating company currently uses, which I don't think that it's ever been done before. So we're very excited about that. One of the next announcements we'll be making in short order is the hiring of our CTO, which is an absolute rock star. And I will tell you that our conversations together have been very specific and direct about the role of this CTO. And it's not to dictate a thing. It's to be knowledgeable about what we currently have across all the markets, what tools are currently being used, how best to leverage those tools for other operating companies. The second piece is when somebody does have to make a change, because people, in fact, Scenic's in the process right now of evaluating RFPs for a new PMS. We've just outgrown where we currently sit. And so his second component will be to know what is on the market across our company that is being leveraged well and be able to communicate that transition. And then the third piece is going to be forward focus on what is next and upcoming in the industry from a technology perspective. All the AI stuff. I mean, I don't even propose to know what AI is all about. I don't think many of us do. It's like a buzzword for most of us. But there are some real big opportunities in the use of automation tools that, again, can help simplify operations to buy you that time to give better service to your owners, guests, and employees. So we are going to be focused with this role in those three areas primarily.
You guys have a lot going on here. I can't feel like there's a million more questions. We could have a part 2 of all of this.
Well, we're going to, because we're going to chronicleize all
We're
of
going
it.
to chronicle.
Exactly.
We're going to chronicle this. Yeah.
Yeah.
You talked about some stuff would happen in the fall. You're going to be interviewing, you said, some PE folks. Like what's next on, I mean, obviously announcements with staff, but I mean, like, where do you guys see yourself at the end of this year? When we get to Verma, are you guys going to have a big booth? Like what does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, from a timeline perspective, we're looking at right now, going through internal diligence with about 18 groups. We want to get this to about 30 to 35 groups. We have about 40 active conversations. There's a few folks, if you're listening, that we would love to connect with. But so having those conversations. So we'll have the initial group of this Justice League Avengers group. We're going to have them identified by the end of probably July, early August sometime. And then between early August to early September, we're going to be putting the package together. We're going to be talking to the different private equity groups alongside our investment banker. And then this fall, we'll be doing diligence, the external diligence with the ultimate investor within StakeholdersVR. And then we're looking at a transaction closing end of October and early November. And then that's when kind of the initial group will kick off. So yeah, really, really exciting time. It's going to be a fast-paced 2025, and we're here for it.
Wow, what a year. A lot of big things changing and moving around. I feel like, things have moved very quickly over the last probably 5 years, but just even in the last year, it's like now the speed is just going so much quicker and so many more different creative things that are coming to the industry. And it makes sense that you guys are at the forefront of it. So we're going to be really excited to continue tracking this for sure. But if anybody wants to reach out to you, if they're interested in hearing more and maybe considering joining this group, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
I think the best way is to go to StakeholdersVR.com. StakeholdersVR.com, and there's a way to get connected with the team right there.
Awesome. Well, if anybody wants to get in touch with Annie and I, you can go to alexandanniepodcast.com. And until next time, thanks for tuning in, everybody.